The State of Crypto is presented by Tron, connecting the world to the power of cryptocurrency.
Australia is starting a research program to explore digital asset opportunities. The Assistant Treasurer and Minister for Financial Services, Stephen Jones, officially started the program Monday at the Australian Securities Exchange. Joining us now is Michael Bacina. He's a partner at law firm Piper Alderman. Hello there, Michael. Thanks for joining us all the way from Sydney. So 25 prominent institutions in Australia have come together to start a research program to benefit from the opportunities arising from digital assets. What's going on in the land down under?
Thanks, Christine, and thanks, Lawrence, for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here. So this launch earlier this week is the Digital Finance Cooperative Research Centre, which is known as a DFCRC. These are non-partisan funded, co-funded industry and government outreach, with universities being involved as well, which are very commercially focused. So the Digital Finance CRC is part of a move by the Reserve Bank of Australia to test a central bank digital currency use case over the next 12 months, which is really exciting. We've seen one of the major banks, ANZ Bank, in March of this year launch a stablecoin with no warning to anyone, which has had a couple of test transactions and worked quite successfully. So this is a really important move towards seeing what a CBDC can do, and seeing a Reserve Bank come in and be part of that is very exciting, because that sees attention internationally and sets some examples as what others could follow and adopt as well.
Michael, good evening. It's kind of interesting from the perspective here, because of course the Albanese government isn't exactly conservative. It's very progressive, and it'd be by any stretch of the imagination anywhere else in the world, it would be left of center, to say the least. What's interesting is, though, that where I guess my question is here is that what is the Albanese government? What is the Albanese government's view of crypto, and how is it peculiar to Australia that you probably wouldn't see elsewhere with other left of center governments that we see in the West?
Well, thanks for that, Lawrence. I think one thing that's important to remember when comparing Australian politics, particularly with the US, is that both sides of our politics would probably sit on the further left side compared to, say, the Democrats and Republicans in the US. So there's not as much of a divide there. An interesting difference is the Collaborative Research Centre programs are bipartisan and non-partisan, and are funded throughout changes in government. So while we've seen a changeover from a more conservative government, our Liberal Party, which is had been very vocal in its support of the digital asset and cryptocurrency industry, the Labor Party, the Albanese government, is probably still playing a significant amount of catch-up on education. Digital assets and cryptocurrencies have not been part of their platform previously, so they have inherited a number of recommendations from a bipartisan Senate report, which took place over the last few years during COVID, and came out with a number of recommendations which have been certainly for peculiar to Australia. One of those recommendations was for a DAO company model to be explored, as well as token mapping to take place at the Treasury level for government to increase their education about crypto assets and digital assets.
So I wonder, just piggybacking off this idea, what is it about Australia, about the culture, because different regions around the world have different reasons for the use cases and the needs for crypto. So what's the narrative in Australia for why they want to explore crypto?
Well, I think the background, Christine, is that Australia really punches above our weight when it comes to blockchain and crypto. We have a significant number of global projects have Australian teams, and many were even founded out of Australia. Sydney and Melbourne have incredible blockchain industries that have arisen, and a significant proportion of new startups are involved in blockchain related areas, and that's been really impressive. We've seen, in particular, RMIT University in Melbourne has been very active in the research space, and that has built up over the last probably 10 years as the industry has matured. We have an excellent climate and lifestyle. wonderful Western values and a very stable government. Because we're a highly federated country, we don't have any breakups between the states when it comes to regulating things like financial products. So some of the issues around, say, money transmitter laws and different securities commissions in the US don't arise in Australia. We have ASIC, a central regulator, which means that certain things can move along with a little bit more clarity. Our size also means we're fairly nimble, and we have a very trusted and highly advanced banking system, which for a long time has been seen as an anchor for those entering the Southeast Asian market. So those things have come together where we're at the end of a lot of long supply chains. Supply chains benefit from blockchain. We have an excellent banking sector. Now we have banks who are coming out being incredibly bullish about decentralization. At the launch on Monday, we had the chair of the ANZ Bank, which is one of the 4 biggest banks in the country, saying that he believes decentralization of trading markets, particularly in carbon credits, are the future. And we have an assistant treasurer getting up and saying that he believes that property fractionalization is the most exciting thing he sees from blockchain. So when we have the people at that level of government and industry putting out that message so publicly, I think that continues to support what is already a really thriving area in Australia.
Do you see a situation? I mean, obviously, Australia, of course, is a commodities-based economy to this day. As a former FX trader, I can attest to the fact that when you bet the Australian dollar, you're betting the commodities market. Do you think that we could see, for instance, some of that securitization happen in Australia in ways that it isn't happening, for instance, in the United States? In other words, is there any, how would you rate Australia in terms of securitization of commodities, let's say, or other assets relative to, say, the United States and Britain and Europe? Are they advanced, or are they kind of still far behind relative to those larger markets?
Well, Lawrence, I think that we would probably rate presently as behind US and UK just because of the size of the markets that exist already. But I think you rightly point out that we may see in the very near future, as we unlock the power of being able to tokenize and securitize as a result, particularly resources and commodities that Australia make up a significant portion of our exports. That is something that I think we will see jump ahead here because there is a need. And there are pilots underway already right now, which are looking into the efficiencies that come and the automation that comes from bringing in that kind of tokenization further out west. A lot of that resourcing is obviously based in the north and the western areas of Australia, say southeastern areas. Sydney and Melbourne is a little bit more financial focused and tech focused, and that's where you see companies like Atlassian and other players come out of.